The act of whistleblowing is born out of the foundational principles of Canadian law. In Canada, we have a rule of law that says that no one is above the law. We also have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms that places freedom of expression, personal security, and equal treatment at the forefront of our Canadian judicial system. Our goal is to give the general public and those thinking about whistleblowing information and guidance. When someone stumbles across something they think isn't right, we want them to know their options. Whistleblowing is often the first step toward accountability. While Canada's whistleblower protection laws may be deficient, there are some laws in place that can protect you from being fired, demoted, or mistreated for speaking up in the private sector. What happens if you work in the private sector and face punishment for being a whistleblower? Well, let's look at 5 options and the pros and cons of each. Many provinces have laws that protect employees from unfair treatment. In Ontario, there's the Labour Board. If you report wrongdoing and face retaliation, you can reach out to these boards for help. Pros of this option is that it's usually the most accessible, and it's often quicker and less costly than a lawsuit. You can receive remedies like getting your job back and also financial compensation. Cons of this option is that the remedies might be limited and the process can be informal and not necessarily thorough. If your whistleblowing relates to a health and safety concern in Ontario, you can file a claim with WSIB. Pros of this option is that it can help cover lost wages and medical costs if you can prove harm due to retaliation. The cons of this option is that WSIB is limited in its entitlements, and unless you're injured and unable to work, you may not get compensated at all. Also, WSIB creates a statute bar that restricts your entitlement to seek damages for wrongdoing of your employer through a civil lawsuit. This can leave victims of serious misconduct, including victims of physical harm, without any recourse. If you're part of a union, you'll be covered under what's called a collective bargaining agreement, or a CBA. This can offer protections against retaliation as well. The pros of this option is that the union support can strengthen your case. And a grievance process is often quicker and can lead to reinstatement and compensation. The cons to this process is that your collective bargaining agreement will require you to resolve issues internally, which shields the problem from public disclosure. Also, the remedies really depend on what the negotiation is between the union and the employer, which may not be a true reflection of your actual damages. And last, just like WSIB, a collective bargaining agreement can restrict your right to bring a civil lawsuit against your employer. If your whistleblowing involves discrimination or harassment, you could file a complaint with the Human Rights Tribunal in Ontario. The pros to this option is that the avenue provides a specific legal framework and can result in compensation or other remedies. The cons is that it applies only to cases involving human rights violations, which doesn't necessarily include retaliation for whistleblowing. Finally, there are civil lawsuits. The pros are that you can receive compensation for wrongful termination, lost wages, and emotional distress. In severe cases, employers might also face punitive and aggravated damages. The cons is that there are limitations. For instance, in the cases involving workplace injury, WSIB rules may prevent you from suing for pain and suffering. Unionized workers may also be restricted by their collective agreements. Proving retaliation can be challenging in lawsuits, and it can be costly and time-consuming. While possible in certain cases, pursuing this path comes with risks and potential delays. Overall, whistleblowing in the private sector can be complex, but there are pathways to seek justice. Knowing the pros and cons of your options can help you make the right decisions. Remember, it's essential to seek legal advice if you're unsure about your situation.